So welcome to Snap Lens Studio of Basic Interactions. As you can see, I'm actually using the new Snap camera that just came out recently. So this video is going to be a little bit different than the other ones, but pretty much the same thing, except I'm going to have this lens on me the whole time. And yeah, so what I want you to go and find is, I found it just by going into the script reference and I just typed behavior script. But if you want the actual link, it's here. It's like lensstudio.snapchat.com/guides/scripting/behavior script. But say you don't, want to find that, you could just look up a Snapchat script reference, and the first one that pops up, and in the search just type in behavior. And the first link is right here, is behavior script. So I'll explain real quick what behavior script does. You could just download it right here. It's just going to be a little zip file, and inside it will be a little JS file. So the whole thing is just one JavaScript file that you're going to use inside Lens Studio. So yeah, basically behavior script makes the whole process of coding a lens and doing interactions like tap or mouth open or etc. Much simpler. So I'm just gonna open up a new project and just kind of show you real quick a very simple example of what I'm talking about. So let's say, for example, we want to do something like some sort of warp, when you open your mouth or something like that. The first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pull in this behavior script into my project. There it is. So I'm just using a new project, no template, nothing. And then up here on the left side in objects, I'm gonna add new, and I'm gonna go to face effects, and I'm gonna do like face stretch, and then I'm gonna zoom in here, and I'm just gonna do some, I don't know, like some like mouth warp or something like that. So now that I have that, I'm gonna first just have to stop my camera over here so that I can enable it over here. Oh, and I should just stop my snap camera too. There it is. So I just obviously am starting with it right now, but I want to enable that on, like, something like mouth open, for example. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is right here where it says face stretch, where I added it in effects, I'm just going to disable it. So just, leave it empty. And then what I'm going to do, this is good practice, you don't need to pull a script on a new object, but it just keeps things nice and clean. So what you do is you go to add new, and then just general, and just add like an empty object, create empty object right here. And then I'm going to rename that to something like, interactions. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my behavior script right here, and I'm just going to drag it onto the inspector of interactions. So just like that. So if you click on your empty game object and then drag behavior script over here on the right, so now you should see the little behavior script with a few events and stuff. Now the one that I want to use here is I just want to turn on this thing that we turned off earlier on a certain event. So what I'm going to do is the trigger is going to be, let's say, face event, and then event type mouth opened. And then you have face index, which is which face do you want to do that on. If you're doing a two-face lens, you would just duplicate this when you're done and just change the index. And then, so response type, we're going to choose set enabled. And then we're going to drag our face stretch into the target. And then I have enable already set here. So on mouth opened, set enable. So there it is. And now we want to do the same thing. We want to disable on mouth closed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click the script right here and just copy, and then right click again and paste. So I have the same exact thing. And instead of mouth opened on the second one, I'll do mouth closed and then set enabled and then action disabled. And now let's do it. It's as easy as that. So the first one, see, on mouth opened, set enabled, on mouth closed, disabled. Very, very simple thing. So that's pretty much all you kind of need to know about how this works. Now, just to show you another type of thing you can do in here, let's also put in like a sound. So if I just go to freesound.org real quick and just log in, you gotta have an account to download from it. Let me just pull, or you can pull a sound effect from anywhere else you like. I don't know if I look up like a clown sound or something like that. Oh, that's creepy. Wait. Clown horn. Something stupid like that I think would work. So like an evil clown laugh. And it's downloading. Once I have it downloaded, I'm going to drag it into Lens Studio. There it is. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add another behavior script. Now this is just the first version of this. As you can see, like once you start adding more interactions, the chain of events starts to get a little long. It's good to have multiple empty game objects to keep it kind of nice and organized. But for now, we're just going to put everything on one. And then what I want to do over here, I have a sound, but I need a sound component to play through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Add New and Audio. And then in here, I'm going to choose, I'm going to drag this evil laugh thing. And so I have my audio component with my audio track. You don't actually need to drag it in here because you're going to be you're going to state which sound effect you want to play in the behavior script. So behavior script, and then on the trigger should be on mouth open. So on the face event, mouth opened, response type, play sound. And then I'm going to drag my audio component in and the sound that I want. And then I'm just going to do it. So it's doing it. Now you should probably do like a shorter sound if it's something like mouth open, mouth closed. But this is just to kind of demonstrate that it's that simple to do all of these other options here. And if you just look at the options that they have for triggers, they have face event, which is what we've just been doing. Now for face event, there's a lot of things like mouth open, mouth closed, eyebrows raised, kiss, smile. All those things work as triggers. Then other types of triggers, you have touch events. So you can actually detect taps on a certain game object. So you can pull in a game object into the world, like a cube or a mesh or something like that, tap it, and that could also become like your touch event. Then you have on front camera and back camera, these events are used for when you switch camera. So sometimes you might want to, let's say, enable certain objects on the front camera but disable them on the back camera. So you'd be using that event for that basically. And then you have animation on animation end, which is pretty self-explanatory. Once an animation ends on an object, maybe do something else, maybe make the object disappear, or so yeah, I'm just gonna get rid of the play sound for now. So I'm actually just gonna kind of save this because this is just a very simple project. Just call it like mouth open warp or something like that. There we go. And then I'm just gonna kind of start a new project and just kind of show you another type of interaction you can do. So let's see here. Yeah, let's do a nice tap thing. So let's say I have a button or something like that that I tap on the camera or on the lens, and then again something happens. Like maybe we could do something like I could switch masks. So I'll have one button for one thing on my face and another button for another thing on my face. So let's see, like a good example would be, oh, that's funny. I don't know if that'll look right, but we could try. So first I'm just gonna set up my lens. I'm gonna pull the texture that I want. Now again, this is, you don't have to use this exact mask or anything else, but the idea is still the same. And I'm gonna go to add new face effects, and here I'm gonna do, oh, if you're looking for the Wi-Fi password, it's, oh, it's changed actually. Would you mind just handing her this? So I'm gonna do where is it? Face mask. And then the texture, this could be one of them, let's say, the default one. So all you do is you go to add new, and then face effects and face mask. And then I'm going to add another face mask. So I have face mask 1 and face mask 2. So for face mask 2, I'm going to pull in this anonymous Guy Fawkes mask. It's actually not that bad. Actually just fit itself pretty well. Just maybe the eyes a little bit. So you can multi-select by just bounding box selecting like that, and you could just try to kind of tweak it a little bit. Don't have to go too crazy with it. There's also different blend modes you could do. No, it just looks like I just have the facial hair. Yeah, it's a nice to kind of play around with it, the different blend effects. So I have face mask 1 and face mask 2. Now I'm just gonna save this project so that we can actually get face masks 1's texture. The reason is because this kind of default texture, I think, let me just see if this actually works like that. Because if you don't save your project, it just keeps it in a temporary directory, and you can't like go into your project files and change stuff. So you actually have to save your project, and then it'll put all the files in that folder. So I'm just gonna make a new folder here and call it something like mask switch, something like that. And so that's what our project's gonna be called. And yeah, it still doesn't seem to pop up. Let me just double check if I check the folder. Gonna ask them to add that because it is a little strange that they don't have that. I guess like a quick workaround, if you really need this image of this face, and because I want to just kind of put it on the button, is I'm just gonna screenshot it. So I'm just gonna screenshot this. Again, this is gonna be very kind of bootleg, but it's just like a little button example. So I'll call this like face 1. Alright, so I'm gonna pull face 1 in here. So now, also, again, grab the behavior script from the Snapchat scripting reference. You just Google Snapchat or Snapchat Lens Studio scripting reference, and here you type behavior. Download it. It's a little zip file with a little script in it. Just gonna drag my script into this project as well. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set up kind of like almost two, let me just check if I'm going to make like, let's say 2 planes. So first I'm going to make 1 plane. Let me move this way. And then I'm going to just kind of turn it like so. And I'm just going to kind of scale it. And I'm just going to, you know, move it to somewhere where this could be like considered a button. And then I'm going to take that plane. I'm just going to parent it to my camera just to make sure that it's all going to follow the camera when you actually do export into Snapchat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new material. I'm just going to use a regular unlit. And then I'm going to pull in the first face mask into that material. And then I'm going to take this plane and put the material on it. And then that's, you can see I have like, you know, the face is kind of there. And I'm going to duplicate that plane, pull it to the right side of the camera, and then I'm going to make another unlit material, unlit 2, and on this one I'm going to put the Guy Fawkes mask, and then I'm just going to grab the other plane and pull the other material onto it. So now I have kind of like 2 buttons that I'm going to use to press. And again, I'm going to make an empty game object. I just go to add new general empty object, and I'm going to call it something like, you know, interactions. And then what I'm going to do is pull my behavior script on here. Now, I'm sure there's a better way to do this, especially if you know how to code it yourself. And again, like this is just the first version of this behavior script. I really kind of commend how they put pretty much everything you could ever want in this one script. Although it's only version 1 and it doesn't have some advanced features like enabling and disabling multiple objects all at once or something like that. You kind of sadly have to pull a behavior script for each time you want to disable or enable something. So since we have 2 things we're switching between, we're going to have to basically have 4 behavior scripts for turning on and off one and turning on and off another one. That's kind of how you have to do it right now. Not at the moment, but I'm sure it's coming like very soon. This is definitely a great step in the right direction. I envision that this will eventually possibly turn into some sort of node-based system, and that's probably where a company like this is going. So interactions, and then what I'm going to do is on touch event, tap, and then touch target. So plane 1. And then response type set enabled, and then what am I enabling? Face mask 1 enable. And then the other thing I have to do is click it, drag it in again. Actually, let me just copy and paste. That's easier. You can right click the script, copy, then right click paste, and then here I have basically face mask 1. When I click the first button, I want to enable the first mask and disable the second mask because I don't want both of them on at the same time. So the only thing I'm changing here is I'm pulling in the other face mask, and that one I'm setting to disable. So now that I have that, now I'm going to again copy and paste. So our third one is the second plane visual, and it's disabling the first mask and enabling the second mask. So I'm sorry, this is a little confusing, but just think of it like on one button you enable a mask, disable a mask. On the other button you enable a mask, you disable a mask. So can't a billboard be a button? It should be. It just sometimes drag it in I'm also trying to drag in a GIF. It's the touch targets work on planes because they're almost like, if you think about how rigid bodies and raycasting kind of works. I think that there is probably a better way to do this, but nonetheless, planes work really well also in Snapchat, so you could pull them around. Billboards are more meant for basically covering the whole screen or putting like really a texture above something. So let me just test this out real quick. So yeah, I click this, and let's see why our second one isn't working. Oh yeah, so the third one is disabling face mask 1 and enabling face mask 2. So there's one, there's the other. So there you go. So this is one thing that I've learned that users really like in their lenses, is they like lenses that they could kind of customize a little bit. Um, you can do all sorts of stuff in Lens Studio, like if you're getting really deep into the scripting. I've seen people make sliders and RGB color pickers and stuff. It's a little bit more advanced, but the possibilities are there. I've also heard some of the Snap people mentioning that people are making like video games in Snapchat, very basic ones, but things like physics, for example, you could completely import JavaScript physics library that already works. It will work in Snapchat because it has full-fledged JavaScript support. So a lot of stuff, even like time, you can even pull time in and have like a real clock working, because again, it's just pulling it from JavaScript time. Um, but what I'm trying to show today is that you could do most of the stuff that users would want to see or a client would want to see just using this behavior script. Um, so that's one thing that I find really cool. The other thing too that I also wanted to kind of cover that I learned recently at LensFest, so I'm just going to kind of save this, is another tool, and this one's actually built into Lens Studio right now. And basically, all you have to do is right here you go to Add New, and I know it's a little weird right now, but you have to click the little search icon right here, and then just start typing scripting, and there it is. It'll pop up, and there's a Tween Manager. So they added a complete like tweening system to Snapchat, so you can scale and rotate, fade between colors, do all sorts of stuff. And inside the Tween Manager, there's a bunch of different kind of like example scripts that you can use to basically tween. So let's say I wanted to, I'm just going to disable the example objects so they're not like flashing in there. And let's say I want to do the example tween transform. So let's say I want to tween one of these buttons. So I'm going to tween one of these buttons, and it's already tweening over here. But what I actually want to do is scale. So I want the starting scale, 1 and to 2, something like that. And then you could do different types of things, like you could so you can make it ping pong, so it goes back and forth. You could do all sorts of stuff. So they've even made that very simple to do. Now you can move, you can scale, you can do all sorts of stuff with the tweening. You could use the tween on tween event ended. I've noticed that in the interactions that's also an event that can fire. So you can actually detect when the tween has finished. Like maybe you want to chain together a more complex lens, like a whole kind of like little story. Something happens, then you have one animation end. Then when that ends, maybe you want to tween that character. Maybe you want to scale them out of existence, or maybe you want to grow them really big or something. You can even detect that as an event end, basically, and then do something with that. So there's really a lot of possibilities you can do, and obviously this is still clickable even though it's tweening. So you can make even nice little kind of subtle, maybe if this tween was a little bit more subtle, like it could be almost like a call to action, like click me, you know, and you click it, and then something funny happens. Or I've seen like people make soundboards. There's a soundboard template in Lens Studio now, which I believe uses tweening. When you click one of the sound effects, it just kind of pops out of the side of the screen. So that's also a great way to let your user know that um, you know, that they did something, like by animating the elements that you're using, like a button, for example. So yeah, I mean, that's basically kind of it. Just wanted to show like the most basics in terms of interactions. Behavior script's really huge. Again, the place to find it, this is the link. If you can't remember the link, you could just search behavior script in the script reference and it'll pop up. The other thing I was also mentioning earlier is Snap Camera came out recently, so that's a whole nother market for why does it not show up on my, there it is. So yeah, that's a whole nother market for your lenses. You could be targeting streamers or all sorts of other people that are kind of using live video, and all the lenses that you make, you can turn them into your camera output basically. So then once you have this Snap Camera over here, you can then go into something like your OBS Studio and just pull in from Snap Camera right there, and then there I am. So it's really that easy to start creating like AR without having to worry about publishing to any platform, publishing an app. Besides, just put it up on Snapchat. There is a 4 megabyte limit to all the lenses that you make, but the reason is because you don't want users dropping off because they can't download your lens on a mobile network or something like that. So, and I've found that the limit is actually quite good for like being really creative with how you use your space. I've seen a lot of people make some very cool lenses just with 4 megabytes, very extensive ones. Now look at this Sylvanas lens, the World of Warcraft.
Wow.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could be done. This one's kind of funny. That was a League of Legends lens. Obviously, like the classic. So yeah, and obviously all of this will also work with the behavior script that I was just showing. But yeah, I'm gonna try to keep these classes, at least the videos from them, brief, so people could kind of follow along and get all the information that they need, tutorial style. And then the people that are attending live here, our meetups, they can feel free to ask me questions and show me what they're working on. So yeah, thanks and enjoy.